Hello and welcome to the Flix Forum podcast with Jesse, Heater and MJ. In this week's episode, we'll be discussing Netflix's fourth film, the 2016 adventure comedy Pee-wee's Big Holiday, starring Paul Reubens. Welcome, boys. How are we doing?
Good, mate. Good to be here.
Very good. Good to see you guys again.
I'm pretty sure that this is going to be quite a contentious film that we're going to discuss. I'm sure we've all got lots of positive things to talk about. How about we start off with a little bit of a fast flicks, bit of a discussion about the plot points. MJ, you want to kick us off?
Happy to. Pee-wee's Big Holiday. With a character that struggles to resonate, a plot that rarely fires a shot, and a cast that has you scratching your head as to where they fit in, Pee-wee's Big Holiday was a struggle. Can this childlike 60-something-year-old get to New York for Joe Manganiello's birthday party? Yes, you heard that right. A film that relies on nostalgia to pull it through.
I didn't even feel any nostalgia whatsoever in this film. But...
No, neither did I. That's why I'm assuming that you needed it, because it didn't pull me through.
So you're a big fan of the movie then?
we'll discuss in depth later, but hopefully I've given you a snapshot of how I felt.
Alright, Heater?
I've tried to remain a bit more impartial in my fast flicks. It's just basically Pee-wee Herman is a much-loved figure in his hometown that he's never left. One day he meets a stranger who convinces him to leave his home and travel to New York City to attend his birthday party. Chaos ensues on his journey to the Big Apple.
Yeah, very impartial.
Yeah.
Well done. I'm assuming you like it, so that's good.
Oh, absolutely.
As usual, mine's pretty basic. So, a loner who's never left his hometown makes a new friend. This new friend invites him to his birthday party in New York City, and he decides to take an adventure to make it in time. Of course, he comes across challenges on the way, but makes it in time to cement that friendship. What a lovely film.
Endearing.
What a lovely film. This film has so much going for it, so I'm really, really looking forward to this. All right, anyone got anything that they want to share about any research or anything that they've learnt about this film along the way?
Yeah, look, the big thing, I need a preface, and I think you guys are actually in the same boat, that I've not seen any other Pee-wee Herman.
Yeah.
Not seen any other Pee-wee Herman films. I'm not familiar with the character at all. So from what I can gather, it's been 27 years since his last film, which is obviously, it's enormous, like a generation and a half gap between drinks. And Judd Apatow was a big Pee-wee fan, and he actually called this project a dream come true, being able to work as a producer on this film. So.
But you look at some of these films, 40-year-old version.
Well, that's my point. I think
knocked up
just before this film, he directed Trainwreck. He directed This Is 40. He produced Bridesmaid, 5-Year Engagement, Anchorman 2. It's actually a really big coup for Netflix to get the Judd Apatow name on this project as the fourth Netflix film. And it really probably gave the studio or the company a big stamp of approval getting him there. Yeah. So that would have been a huge result for them when that happened initially.
Yeah, Heater, anything that you want to discuss on that?
Not on that. Obviously one of the big ones is the stranger who he meets is Joe Manganiello, who plays himself, and that role was actually originally intended for The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, which I could definitely see him playing that exact role.
Look, gotta love The Rock.
I didn't know when that was happening that Joe Manganiello was playing himself. Obviously, he came into the scene. I thought, who's this cool character coming into it? And then he eventually revealed himself to be himself, and I didn't see that coming.
I'm the same. Haven't seen any of the previous films. Also, I don't know whether it's maybe a cultural thing as well. I don't know if he was a big thing in Australia. I don't know. But yeah, I think even if we had seen, I think we're probably a little bit young for to be around.
We would have missed it. It was
just missed the
mid-80s, wasn't it?
So it's interesting first experience with Pee-wee. So
was
critical consensus for this film though.
It was positive.
Yeah,
it was received really well by critics.
Rotten Tomatoes 80%.
Yeah, it's got a 6.2 on IMDb, and overall it was perceived really well.
So yeah, from what I really struggled through this film, and I tried to read in a little bit of depth about why this critical consensus was quite positive, and from what I can understand, that there's a lot of talk about the similarities it had to the 1985 film, and a lot of the sentiment was around, Pee-wee's back, The man we know and love is back, and all that sort of sentiment really, to me, felt like it was based around that fact that nostalgia played a really huge part. And if you're left without that nostalgia, you're probably sitting there thinking what I was thinking, what the hell am I watching? Because I just didn't get it, and at not one point did the character resonate with me.
Yeah, I think talking about that as well, they tried to make him look like he did back in the day as well. So they used all these like special effects to de-age his face to make him look like he did back in the day.
They did a great job of that. I think he was 64 doing this, and
definitely didn't look like he was that old.
Absolutely, the makeup team and the visual effects team did a great job.
Yeah, old enough to know better though, mate.
So I guess we should probably talk a little bit about some likes and dislikes in a bit more detail.
You can start with this because
I'll start with a like. I thought that Joe Manganiello played the character well. I thought for the role that he had, he played it well. Like, yeah, The Rock playing that role would have been pretty cool as well. But I thought for what he had, I thought he was good.
I actually think he was the best thing about the film.
Yeah.
I actually felt like he played the role as if he was in on the joke, and he was kind of taking the piss of the whole film, which he sort of had to. I mean, if he was trying to be too serious in that role, it wouldn't have worked. But seeing him crying on his bed because Pee Wee Herman hadn't turned up to his birthday party in New York City when he's got all these celebrities downstairs. He's a Pee Wee Herman he'd met for an hour. That was... I think he did that pretty well.
I think it sort of plays to the simplicity of Pee Wee though. Like Pee Wee's whole life, his town, the people he works with, the people he went to school with, everyone's really simple. So I think to have Joe's character as anything more than sort of a simple character as well that would be able to, make that connection in such a quick time. And you've got a 90-minute film that you're trying to do it in.
Yeah.
And it's obviously, the target audience is kids and families. Like it's not going for people our age or, adults. It's a film that's obviously for kids. And
do you think this resonates with kids of nowadays when they can watch, Secret Life of Pets and an abundance of great Disney films and all that sort of stuff?
I think it's a great question because I think, though, like you were talking about before, they're trying to recreate this magic they had in the 80s, obviously, and this is the type of film that would have done well in the 80s. Like those type of family-friendly films that, in Australia we had that carrot top head guy, I forget what his name is, Yahoo Serious, was it? Yahoo Serious.
Yeah.
Those sorts of similar films.
That
was his name, wasn't it? Carrot Top? I can't remember. Anyways, but they're the type of film, they did work, but like you say, I think we're in a bit of a changing society.
And kids have moved on.
The kids' movies and TV now is just so different to kind of this kind of thing that was even before we were kids.
Yeah.
And that's why you can't find the critical consensus on how kids feel about this film.
Yeah.
They're not writing reviews, and because there's no box office that we can look at either, we can't see where the families were taking their kids and who's actually watching it, and that's all Netflix data, and they keep that pretty tight-lipped to themselves.
And this is probably one of the first ones that we've watched that hasn't had a theatrical release. Almost as well.
Correct.
And obviously they're not going to waste the time and money to put it in a theatre unless they're going to win some awards. So obviously didn't think they were going to win any awards with this one.
But even Joe Manganiello was saying when he realised that Pee Wee doesn't know who he is, how he's like, I'm Joe Manganiello from True Blood and Magic Mike. Kids nowadays aren't watching True Blood and Magic Mike.
Exactly.
They're both
they would know
at least 15 years old to watch those things. I found it a really odd thing to drop in there if it is a kids film, and that's why half the film I was actually thinking, is this meant to be a kids film?
Quite a few inappropriate scenes for a bit of sexual kind of innuendo and scenes and stuff. It was like, this is like a family kids movie, isn't it? There was quite a bit that was like, okay.
If you're watching that with your kids,
one.
How do you explain to them why 10 farmers' daughters are trying to break into his room in the middle of the night?
Yeah.
And at one stage he says, I'm saving myself to a marriage.
To eat cookies with a woman, that was until they're married, he's not going to do that. So obviously there's a few issues that we're talking about here. What are some scenes did you have any scenes that actually stood out that you thought were well done?
It's probably just a few different moments in the scenes. I obviously wasn't a big fan of this movie. There's a few moments, like we said before, when they're with the farmer's daughters and they're all around saying grace, and they ask Pee Wee, do you want to say a few words? And he doesn't know what they're talking about, and he just starts off rambling just random words. No, that was just funny.
Okay. Fair.
Yeah, I remember that actually.
I really thought the opening scene was quite clever. All the contraptions going through the house to get him into the car. I thought that was really well shot, really well made.
I liked that when he got out of bed,
Yeah.
and then he went up in the balloon. And it kept on going on for like 10 more minutes, and I was like, come on, all right. If you had to stop this after the first bit, it would have been good.
Once he hit
and
the
then it
car
just
and
went
hit the
on
road,
and on
Yeah.
and on.
So then he
like,
goes into this house, and they let him
Yeah.
in, and there's this buffet of breakfast foods, and he grabs a couple, but didn't even eat it.
He hands it to the girl on the way
So I get the
past.
vibe that this is his morning routine. So they're cooking up this big feed every single morning, and he's just touching it, not even taking it. That bothered me. And then he goes to a kitchen and starts cooking breakfast for everyone. It's like, why don't you just eat on the job?
But maybe that's like the opening to one of his TV shows or something, and it's like
Yeah, okay.
paying homage to that. I'm not sure. Maybe.
But before that scene, the very opening scene of his dream with the
Oh,
ET spoof,
That's
that alien was creepy looking, had no nose. I was just like, this is like opening scene of like a kid's movie. They'd be terrified. That thing was creepy as.
and I was trying to work like, is that alien someone that he's met before?
That's what I was
Yeah.
thinking too. And then I was like, this film's obviously about an alien. That's what I thought when I started watching it. And it never came back. And it was like, he was so emotional about leaving that alien.
Alien,
yeah. I have to assume that it was maybe part of another episode or film. And that was kind of their way of tying off that part of the story. I'm not too sure.
Yeah, maybe in his last movie he went to space with an alien or something. Who knows?
So I'll give them a...
Well, he can't have because this was the first time he left his hometown.
True, but the other one was called Pee-wee's Big Adventure. Did he have a big adventure where he didn't leave the town?
Maybe it was in his backyard.
Oh, we
Big
sound so
adventure.
uninformed.
Yeah,
I know.
The other scene that really sort of got me or annoyed the living daylights out of me was that balloon squeaking scene.
Oh, no, you know what? I actually fast forwarded it.
Yeah?
I did it nice and slowly and
Yeah.
watched that he was still doing it, and I'm like, I can't keep sitting through this.
It just went on and on and on and on. And I think it's the longest continuous scene in any Pee Wee Herman movie. It went for 2 minutes and 7 seconds of him just squeaking a balloon. And it wasn't funny.
That was atrocious.
And then,
Shocking.
and then the whole community's like, oh, this is amazing. Really? Like, well, yeah, I don't know.
I felt that way through so many situations in this film.
Yeah.
Just annoyed at them making me watch it.
Watching Pee-wee just was annoying in itself.
Let's talk about this character because I couldn't understand him and not listen to him. I couldn't understand where he was coming from. I couldn't understand anything about him. But I also got to the point where I couldn't bear him. Like he drove me crazy. And as I said, without like having any prior knowledge to him, that like childlike innocence just really felt misplaced and like a little bit creepy. Yeah. And again, maybe that's a 2018 thing, whereas it might have been sort of cute and endearing back in the 80s when there's less of that kind of content around. But now it's weird.
It's just some of these when he's on screen, probably once I got to about halfway through the movie, just like this is just cringeworthy watching, his giggle and his laugh and just the way he spoke. I was just like, really?
That bothered me more when I was as well.
It was annoying.
I mean, once he hits the road, the middle section of the film deteriorates very quickly. It's nice getting to know the town and the people that he lives with, works with, and then once he hits the hits the road, there's all these stereotypes that like literally they're just these things that you see. So they had like the Amish community, and I was just like, okay, fair enough, that's fine. You've got the businessman on the road who's like a creepy businessman, the salesman. You got the hillbillies that he go, that they try to marry him off to. The hairstylists, like
I don't even know where that one fell.
That was a strange.
Where'd that come
scene.
from? Nothing actually happened with that.
No, but it's just like you've got all these stereotypes that
The
they're
bank
really
robbers.
positive. Yeah, the bank robbers that end up in jail and then they come out to help. It's like, why? Why do we need these?
That's interesting that you say that you enjoyed the setup of the story.
I did.
But the crux of the movie was the adventure, and is that an issue with, I guess the script that they almost couldn't write a story good enough to follow up on anything else that Pee-wee's built previously. So the stuff at the start would have been easy. It existed. It was easy enough for them to show it again. But as soon as it came to crunch time to writing a story, there was nothing there.
Yeah.
And I think that there needed to be more of a connection with him leaving the hometown on the road rather than the road just being him coming across different things the whole way.
Like he just left the home and that was it.
Yeah, or like
someone
from the hometown was like, chasing after him or trying to make sure he comes back, or someone was like saying they missed him and they needed to go back, and then there was like this sort of...
There's nothing really at stake, was there?
Yeah. Not really, no. And
if he doesn't get to the birthday party, big whoop.
Yeah.
Like, it's not just, the end of it.
Yeah.
But like, I wanted him to get to the birthday party
Of course.
Yeah. Like, so I'm not saying that I cared about the character, but I still wanted that resolution at the end that he actually got there.
Yeah.
I almost just wanted to see Joe Manganiello in more, more
just wanted to see him.
Like if he doesn't get
more
there,
scenes,
the best character in the film's not going to come back.
Yeah.
So.
Well, this is out of the first 4 Netflix films. We've got another hallucination of Abe Lincoln. I can't believe we watched 4 movies. He's in the pit on his way to the party, and he sees the Queen and Abraham Lincoln. And I'm just like, really?
I guess we're going to have to add an Abe Lincoln watch.
Yeah. So that's 2 out of 4 films so far. We'll see. I'm
assuming there'll be one of the next 2 then.
Oh, absolutely. There has to be, doesn't there?
There's got to be. Yeah.
I just I couldn't believe his hometown doesn't have traffic lights. It's ridiculous.
Oh,
he gets on the road, he takes it for the traffic light. I'm like, you live in a town, you don't have traffic lights.
Yeah,
that just annoyed me. Just a little thing there just annoyed me.
Stop signs and give way.
Yeah. The other thing that got me, that annoyed me in that town as well, you get the whole 50s, 60s vibe, the diner, all that sort of stuff. But then when he takes a selfie with Joe and he uses a digital camera.
That's
yeah.
Really? Everything else is so themed to that one thing, and then it's no, we're just gonna.
Also, I hated just the milkshake scene. Just annoyed me. Just it was just a goofy film where they didn't do the milkshake properly. Did you? And if you noticed that, he pours the milkshake for him, and there's quite a bit left in the top.
Yeah.
Because I actually thought, he's going to put whipped cream or something in there. He's left a bit of a gap at the top. Slides it over to Joe.
And it's full.
Joe gets it, and it's full.
Yeah.
I'm like, that is really annoying. That you've the filming's just stuffed up there. And just little things like that just annoyed me.
Yeah,
really annoyed me.
Him as a character, I was comparing him to Mr. Bean. So I love Mr. Bean, and I'm like, okay, why do I love Mr. They're similar kind of outcasts. They live in their own little world a little bit, quite eccentric. But I love Mr. Bean, and I couldn't stand Pee-wee. I'm like, why? So why do I like Mr. Bean so much more? And I actually think it's because Mr. Bean's actually a bit of a jerk. Mr. Bean...
Yeah, he has a bit of a mean streak.
He's selfish and he's a bit cunning, and you kind of love to see the mischief that he gets up to.
Yeah,
and that's the humour of Mr. Bean. And Pee-wee was more like, oh man, what's this idiot doing now? There's 3 girls, they've clearly just robbed a bank, the sirens on everywhere, and he's like, oh yeah, jump in the car. Like that sort of stuff is not like...
Yeah.
It's not like Mr. Bean... getting change in front of a blind man or something like that. That's just really funny.
Mr. Bean might be Mr. Bean doesn't talk, and I think that's part of the if Mr. Bean.
It's also the appeal of him,
because if he had dialogue, possibly we wouldn't like his.
Might make it worse.
Yeah, true.
So he's
I think
Pee-wee's like a talking version of Bean,
which doesn't work.
No. Doesn't work. So did you take anything out of the film? Did you think that there's I think there's some good messages in this film. I think for a family-friendly movie, it wasn't just a film that was about gags and jokes and fart jokes.
Wasn't the most family-friendly movie though.
It wasn't. It definitely had some things that weren't.
The male strippers in the pillow fight.
Oh yeah.
Was an odd scene to put in there.
True.
For a family movie.
True. There are a couple of weird scenes as well. The scene where he decides to go and hide in the toilet and just comes out with that disguise, dressed as a horse or whatever it was, and walks.
See, that to me at least, that's where it felt like a kid's film.
Yeah.
And I was kind of okay with it feeling like a kid's film, but yeah, it's juxtaposed the fact that he's trying to get a shotgun wedding with a farmer's girl.
Maybe that's why that felt so out of place for me, because there are more adulty sort of things in it, and that was just so contrasting and so weird.
Well, I guess in terms of the one thing that adds to that is the director is John Lee. It was his first and it's the only movie that he's ever directed.
Yeah.
I mean, you can kind of tell this was his first go at it, and
he's only done TV, I think.
Yeah, he's only ever done TV. This is the first movie he's done.
No one's knocking on his door to do another one.
It doesn't seem like it. No.
Come on, John.
So one of the scenes the scene where he's in the plane with that lady, and he jumps out of the plane and she's like, "Live it up." Is that what the whole story's about? Is him just living life, living it up, trying to try different things, do different things, break out of the mold?
I guess I had a couple of notes. I guess on the themes, that's what. I guess the main themes were adventure and stepping out of your comfort zone.
Yeah,
which is something obviously that he had to do to leave. I think stepping out of your comfort zone was a big one for me. Is kind of the theme.
I agree. Nice message. Yeah. Again, I wish they had made it harder for him to leave. Yeah, like just the way he's like, I've never left here before, and Joe's like, oh, you should leave. He's like, oh yeah, okay, I'll do it. Yeah. Like, and
he just tells his bosses, hey, I'm leaving, and see you later.
It kind of would have been nicer if he had a bit of a struggle with that. Yeah, and weighing up.
I feel like they tried to do that with the band, like how the band were kicking him out of the band. So like these things that he had always felt secure with. Now it's like, well, there's nothing for me, so I can just go. But it wasn't really done.
Yeah, and like you said, would have liked more kind of emotional connections, telling him, no, you've got to stay, and even on the journey, hey, calling him on the phone, got to come back. A bit more pull back to his hometown, because it just seemed like, he lived in his hometown all his life, but why, if he can get up that quickly and leave? Like, he doesn't have much, obviously he was much loved in the town, but it just didn't seem like he had a connection there or real, a home place there, because of how easily he just got up and left.
Especially because at the start, when they, when he's like, oh, Pee-wee, can you just stay at the store for a little bit, and I'm just going to go out and meet a friend or something, it didn't feel like anyone actually liked him. Like they liked him, but they didn't care for him. And the band said, "Hey mate, we're all moving on."
Kind of treating him pretty badly.
He felt very dispensable to everybody. So there was nothing really pulling him back. But was that to make the decision easier? And if that's the case, we didn't need the decision to be easy. We wanted it to be hard and stepping out of your comfort zone.
I guess that would take big deal. If they spent more time on that, they'd take more away from the journey, and maybe they wanted to spend a lot more time on the journey.
Sounds like a good idea to me.
That's why he hasn't directed a movie since, because he made that mistake.
Another thing, the friendship thing, yes, he only made this friend, and they were best mates within 10 minutes, but it was sort of that thing, I'll do anything for a friend. I'm willing.
I agree. The friendship thing I actually kind of liked. It went both ways as well with Joe and Pee-wee. That they were committed to each other.
Yeah, and Joe at the end, he has that whole miniature town and the tree house and that stuff that he'd done for this.
I would have preferred. So you get the vibe that he met Pee-wee, went back and built the miniature town, right?
Yeah.
When I first saw that, I was like, okay, kindred spirits. Joe had made his own miniature town. He saw Pee-wee's, didn't want to tell Pee-wee that he had his own, but they were just connected on that level. Yeah. But it wasn't like that. I was really hoping it was Joe's like, hey, guess what? I do this too.
Yeah.
But he's like, no, I just whipped this up in 5 days.
So that whole journey towards the party, what did you guys think of the dream sequences that he kept having, with him and Joe being best friends? Was there any need for that to remind the audience that that's what he's doing? But I felt like that was a waste of time.
I thought it was a waste too, but also taking it at the point of view is, if they're targeting this at kids who maybe don't have the best attention span, got to keep reminding them, hey, this is the goal, this is what he wants. So, I didn't like it, but I guess from a kid's point of view, it might have been a necessity to make sure they're constantly reminded.
I also wonder if that's a character thing that he's done in the previous films, because that's how it started. That very first scene with the alien was a similar dream sequence. So when it first went to that dream sequence with Joe, I thought, oh, where's the alien's going to pop out here or something like that. But I guess every time when he was losing motivation, that was what drove him. But agreed, I thought they were shocking scenes.
Would it have been better on the big screen? Where should we watch it? I reckon this should have been probably put on a cable TV kids network.
Yeah.
Played 11 o'clock at night when everyone's in bed. No one watches it. Although I didn't hate it.
I couldn't recommend this to anyone. I couldn't recommend this to someone with kids.
There's a lot better options out there.
It's on Netflix, so it's there and it's fine. But
there's a lot better stuff on Netflix to have your kid watch with you.
Yeah, it's it certainly didn't need to be on the big screen. No, I would. You know what? I wish it was, so we could actually see box office results, so I can be justified.
See how many people walked out.
When I look at how much was it? Rotten Tomatoes, 80%.
80%.
So when I look at that and I cannot figure out what I'm missing, and if I'm that uninformed, at least I could cross-reference it with some box office results.
Yeah.
Okay. The general public, because Rotten Tomatoes, it's a nice gauge, but it's taken with a grain of salt.
Absolutely, yeah. It's not the be-all and end-all.
All right, so is there anything else to discuss, or are we ready to sort of give our film rating out of 5?
Well, I actually had a couple of nice little IMDb moments.
Oh yeah, they did be good. IMDb moments.
The first thing that got me was the bank robbers seeing Stephanie Beatrice there from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Obviously with the blonde
Rosa
wig.
Diaz.
Yeah, the blonde wig got me initially, and I'm like, I'm sure that's Rosa. And obviously it's interesting to see her playing anything that's not like a hard ass cop. So that one was really funny. But then my favourite one was at the end. Obviously at the party there were a few guests there who were playing themselves as real actors and seeing. Didn't know her actual name, but Janina Gavankar, who is Luna from True Blood, but is also Shiva from The League. So it was very nice. I almost did my own little Shiva bomb at home when I saw Shiva. That was almost the highlight of the movie for me, to be honest, with her 3-second scene.
Wow, you are talking this up.
No, my IMDb it was about 10 minutes in, double checking how long the movie went for. I was already struggling, and that was me just checking how long I had left.
I'm pretty sure I texted you guys during the opening montage.
Just nah.
This is going to be rough.
What about you, Jesse? When did you jump on IMDb?
All I did was look up the director to see if he'd made any other films, and obviously not. So
what made you think about the director? Was there anything in particular that you thought?
I just wanted to, like, family-friendly films. Obviously, a niche sort of market that they often give them to directors that haven't done a lot before. Like, unless it's like Spielberg or something like that, they give them to people who've done a lot of TV and that sort of stuff. So I was just wanting to see what sort of other stuff he'd done, and there was nothing that stood out at all. So I was just like, oh, yeah, fair enough. Which is a bit weird.
This movie actually made me want to bring in another segment that I've been thinking about. I've been thinking about this segment through the first few films. Because, this is Netflix. People are watching it at home. Because it's a streaming service that you watch it in the comfort of your own home. And I wanted to bring in a segment called Did My Dog Bark during this film.
I'm looking forward to the segment.
I have 2 dogs, one of which always barks when he sees animals on TV, particularly dogs and horses. So there is a warning for those who want to watch this at home. Your dog will bark. There is a dog at the start. There are numerous horses when you get with the Amish, and Todd didn't like that either. But Pee Wee Herman has this scream, squeal that's obviously part of his character that everyone seems to love. And not only did I hate it, Todd hated it as well. And every time he went into a screaming fit, Todd went into a barking fit. And maybe this is what bothered me about the film as well, that I was fighting these elements, trying to enjoy this film that wasn't enjoyable, trying to deal with my dog who wasn't enjoying it either. But it's just something to note. If you see him walking into an enclosure with a snake, put your TV on mute for a little bit.
What did you think of those corny snake jokes on the way into the the rattlesnake and the real like lame as
Awful.
Really lame.
Awful.
Really lame.
One kind of more hypothetical question I had just thinking about this, because I think we said before it's been 27 years since his last movie.
Yep.
So why make this one? Like, why did he do it?
Judd Apatow.
So I believe actually they were in talks for they were writing this for 5 or 6 years. This film.
Even then, that's still 20 odd years
Yeah,
afterwards.
you're right.
Just decided to get back into it.
Well, there's obviously some things that we haven't mentioned about Paul Reubens, which we probably won't discuss anyway. But I think that probably kept him away from the character for a while as well.
Yeah.
But I think as well in this day and age where there's so much content available and there's so many opportunities to make films.
I guess with Netflix now,
why not,
a lot more opportunities. Just seems strange that after that long absence to suddenly get back into, I guess, and a movie that was exact same as previously when you've got such a new environment.
Yeah. Well, I think Judd Apatow played a huge part in that, and B, I think if not for a Netflix type service, it probably wouldn't have
got made.
As Jesse said, it's the first one that we've spoken about that wasn't actually theatrically released, so it worked for this sort of hypothetically worked for this sort of environment.
Yeah. So, I think we're good now. I think we're on track now. What do we give it out of 5? What are we rating it and why?
Do you want to go first, MJ?
I think we want to hear yours first.
Well, to me, the film never pulled me in, and I barely enjoyed any scene. I actually felt insulted by the type of humour, and I know it wasn't aimed for a 29-year-old man, but the humour was so bad that it actually bothered me. And the whole time I just wanted it to end. So I'm generally pretty positive with movie ratings, but this for me was 0.5 stars. It's one of the worst films I've ever seen.
Half a star. That's
good.
Okay, that's our lowest rating so far.
Like the summary. I've got a couple of young nephews, so actually over the past kind of few months, I've actually watched a fair bit of kids' TV and kids' movies, just kind of when I'm with them, and actually haven't minded a fair bit of the content on there. This was awful, this movie.
Yeah. I was like, oh no!
I've actually watched some good stuff that I thought that I've actually enjoyed that's targeted kids. This movie was awful. I struggled. As I said, 10 minutes in, I'm already looking to see when it's over. I give it a 1 out of 5.
So to that point, actually, I think the beauty, and you would know this as well as anyone, Jesse, because I know you love animated family films.
Yep.
The beauty of making a really quality family film is tying in those jokes that are relevant for parents as well. And it's not... when you get it really wrong, it's when you have kids film, adult joke that kids don't understand, but that's okay because they don't understand it. But I don't think that's too jarring. You need that kind of humour that adults still find funny and kids still find it funny as well. Like, it's still cute and funny, but adults might see it from another...
exactly.
And this was the exact opposite, where every now and then they just chucked in this really adult reference, and we're like, kids won't understand anyway, so it's fine.
Yeah.
And it's a really lazy way to do it. And
I agree.
and look at like Toy Story, for example. You can watch that as an adult and find it really clever and subtle and wonderful. And as a kid, you find it fun and entertaining.
Yep.
Because they just get that balance right. And this was so far wrong in that direction. So,
I think so I didn't hate it as much as you guys. I thought it started off really well. It ended well. The middle needed a lot of work done with it. But compared to, like you said before, I have seen a lot of kid-like movies, and I don't mind watching them. But the good thing about this one was that it actually tried to have some sort of moral or meaning behind it. And to me, that sort of bumps it up a bit compared to some of the trashy kids films that you see. Some of them are just literally like slapstick humour, no meaning, just character starts at A, finishes at B.
Yep.
Whereas this one, yes, the character started at A, got back to A, but in between there was some kind of message of, friendship and adventure and breaking the mould and trying something new. So I've given it 3 out of 5. So
well done.
That's about 60%. So it's just on that border of fresh or rotten. If I was on Rotten Tomatoes, so that's where I've stuck it on there. So if we add those 3 up, what do we get as an overall average?
We get an average score of 1.5.
1.5
out of 5.
Okay, good. I've kept it over
1.5 stars.
Done well.
1.5 out of 5. So probably our worst one so far.
It's the worst out of the first 4.
First 4.
Hey, to your point, Jesse,
Yes.
we didn't talk about that, going from character starting at A, ending at A. What do you think happens with Pee-wee now? He's been on his adventure. He would invariably head back home. What does he do? Is he a new man?
Well, I think the final scene of the film was him on the back of the motorbike with Joe riding off. So to me, he's still taking risks. He's getting on motorbikes. He's leaving the town. Who knows? Him and Joe may go away every weekend and stuff. To me, I think maybe he's going to do more.
I agree with that. He's now more adventurous and he's more. He stepped out of his comfort zone. Was
still
okay.
Still happy and comfortable at home.
Yeah,
but he's
happy just to go out and
That's it. And he brought the new food to the diner.
The garnish.
The garnish. Little things like that. He's sort of bringing back to his life. So
there you go. So can we bump your scores up a little bit? Or
we cannot.
That's just discussing where the characters go.
You're saying we've had some growth in the film. Surely you can give it more than half a star for a bit of growth.
Well, I did. I gave it 1.
All right, so we would love it for you guys to hit up our social media channels. We're obviously Flix Forum at Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and each week we are going to have a question on there relating to the film we've watched. This week I've got on there, what film from your childhood hasn't stood up over time? So have a think about some of the films you would have watched as a kid, and see which ones going back and watching now do you reckon haven't withstood the change in time.
You table these really great questions, but we don't know them in advance to think about. So we're gonna have to jump on Twitter.
I'm expecting you guys to get on as well and answer this, so we can get on there and answer.
I'm gonna have to go back and watch all my favourite kids movies again to work out which ones.
We've got enough to watch as it is. So next week we are going to be discussing the 2016 satirical comedy Special Correspondent starring Ricky Gervais, Eric Bana, and Vera Farmiga. So please take the time to watch the film before our next episode, so you can join in with the discussion. Hope you guys have enjoyed this chat. I'm sorry that this was such an ordinary film for both of you.
I'm sorry that if you played along at home and you did watch the film with us, and you did get through the film, I apologise for that as well. So this is the podcast we chose to do.
So good chatting, boys, and we'll see you
thanks, Jesse. Thanks, MJ.
See you next week. Looking forward to watching a new film this week.
See you, boys.
Washing out the taste of that one.
Can't wait.